Hey guys, what's up? Coming to you live from my art room. Yeah, because my boyfriend's out and doing a bunch of stuff in the apartment, so I'm going to film from here today. So this is going to be a Booktube-a-thon kind of wrap-up. I know I didn't do any update videos. I was pretty busy this week, but I'm going to do a wrap-up kind of slash wrap-up for Booktube-a-thon, sorry, and wrap-up for the month as well. So these are the books that I have done or read in July because I had a lot of spare time on my hands, and so I've got quite a few of them. The first one that I completed was As Always, Julia. It's a memoir of letters between Julia Child and one of her best friends, Ava Devoto, chronicling before, during, and after the publication of Mastering the Art of French Cooking. So it's like a whole chronicle of their whole relationship. It was pretty sizable, but it was really enjoyable, and I love the contemporary for the time, obviously. It was between the late 40s to, I want to say, the 70s that it was the letters of these women writing back and forth, and it was just so good. I really enjoyed it. The next one that I completed was Pandora's Lunchbox, How Processed Food Took Over the American Meal by Melanie Warner. This was very interesting. Like it says on the cover by Mark Bittman, so much fun that you might forget how depressing it all is. There are more holy cow moments here than someone who thinks he or she knows what's going on in food production could predict. And that is what I kept in mind throughout reading it, and I had so many whoa kind of moments. It was really unbelievable. I would definitely recommend this if you're interested in that kind of thing, learning about processed food. So, moving on, I read, I think, almost all of the books that I did in my very first video for the library haul a few weeks ago. There was a couple that I decided not to do because, like, for Ink, for example, the sequel, Rain, I can't find it in any of my libraries, so what I'm thinking I'm going to do is wait until the third one comes out, which I know is in a year, but I think it's worth it to wait and then marathon all three of them whenever I can, because I hate that when there's like one or maybe two books out, and you know a third one's coming out, so you don't want to like read it, and then like a year later you forget about all the characters and everything, you got to read it again, so I was just going to wait. But I did complete all the others except that one. And the first one was Anya's Ghost by Vera Brosgol. And I was really excited to read this, and I was not disappointed. It was a very good story. I love that it was all in purple. I love the artwork. It was really cute. And it was just a lot of fun. I really identified with her as a teenager, like some of the thoughts that she has. I felt like I was going through them, particularly like a lack of friends that understood me kind of thing. And anyway, it was a good conclusion too. I really enjoyed it. The next one that I read was Will&Whit by Laura Lee Gullidge. This was so good. I was so happy to read this because the character, Wilhelmina, she's an old soul. She feels like she should have been born in a previous century, and that's how I feel too a lot of the time. And what she does is she does a lot of things with light. She's really obsessed with light because she doesn't want to be in the shadows and the dark because it reminds her too much of her past, and it's too much of a dark place to go. So she's obsessed with building these lights, and it reflects that in every chapter. There's a power outage during it, and what you'll notice with this author, she's so brilliant at doing these little vignettes and suggestions through her illustrations. Her writing isn't bad, but I really loved her illustrations a lot more, particularly the shadow work that she did. Like, for example, you probably can't see that too well, but when she appears, puts the shadows behind Wilhelmina, they're in different shapes, and it's representation of her mood. So you don't know what's going on inside her head. Meanwhile, she's obviously saying something different. And so she suggests little things. She in each beginning chapter, there's a different lamp, a different kind of light medium for the chapter heading. And when there's a blackout, you notice the pages go from white to black border during the background, and then back to white at the end, where they have the power back. Matt pointed that out to me, and I'm like, oh, that's true. That's so awesome. Anyway, I'm going to buy this. I totally am, because I can see this is something that I'm going to want to read again and again. Next thing I was excited about to read was Bambi by Felix Salten. This was really great. I love the Disney movie, but I also love this. Surprisingly, I was kind of hesitant to read it because I knew it was older. I wasn't sure I was going to like it as much, but it was very whimsical, surprisingly. I thought it was going to be really formal with the deer not having any dialogue. I don't know why I thought that anymore. It was really good, and I'm going to have to find a copy of this too, because I can see it being a book that I'd want to pass along to my kids maybe, or probably just keep to myself, because as you can see, I have a lovely, this is my children's books collection. It is, and I treasure them so much. Moving along. Oh, okay. So these next several books are for what I read for the Booktube-a-thon. So I started off with the Marigold trilogy, I should say saga, because like I said in my last video, I found out that Jean Ferris is writing a 4th book for the series saga, Quadruple Upon a Marigold, which is really exciting. But in the meantime, I had read the first, but not the second and third before, so it was really exciting. I've read the first one several times. It's an adorable love story. It says on the cover, part comedy, part love story, part everything but the kitchen sink, and it totally is. It's awesome. It was really funny, and there's contemporary. I love how Jean Ferris writes. It's just so funny. And you can't tell if, because she's an older lady, an older writer, if she's a little misguided in what is humor, but I take it as really, really funny. I would just really highly recommend this trilogy. Once, Twice, Thrice Upon a Marigold. So, so good. I wasn't sure that Twice and Thrice would be really interesting, since they covered the bulk of, like, the first years of their love story in it, but she developed the plot really nicely for the next 2 books, so I'm eager to see what she comes up with for the 4th. The next book, which there's a couple of these that I have read that I'm going to include in my next video, which is a very, very big July book haul, but I decided to read these. Why We Broke Up by Daniel Handler, and as the title suggests, it's a story of a breakup, but it's in the form of a very long letter from the girl, Min, to the guy. I can't think of his name right now. It's in here. Ed. Sorry, I remembered. Ed. Yes. And it's basically a box with a series of objects, as lovelily illustrated by Myra Coleman. And there's a little story that goes along with each object that she's given to him in this box, and it's kind of like it's a chronicle of their going out for a little over a month, or maybe a little under a month. I can't remember. But yeah, it was really good. Wasn't too fond of the guy by the end, of course, but still, I found it interesting, and I already love Daniel Handler's writing because, as I said before, he's also Lemony Snicket. So I know his writing is engaging and humorous, and I really enjoyed it. The next book that I read for the first time was Charlotte's Web. This was to complete the challenge of a book-to-movie adaptation, and I didn't watch the movie. It was Sunday night, and it turned 12 o'clock, literally. I looked down at the clock, and it was 12 o'clock, just as I remembered. I hadn't watched the movie. And I was so sad, because up till that point, I was just congratulating myself that I had completed every challenge. But I didn't. I didn't watch the movie. So I still have to do that. But I read the book, and it was really good. I couldn't really believe that I hadn't read this before, that I'd somehow managed to avoid it in all my years of school, you know, with book reports and stuff, especially in elementary school. But yeah, this is my sister's copy. I might pick up a copy for myself someday and add it to my collection. It was good. The next one that I read was Farley Mowat's Owls in the Family. I don't know if I should call it a classic, but it's Canadian anyway, and I'm from Canada, so that's how we do. It was good. I like that it was autobiographical, that this actually happened to Farley Mowat. and it's from his life, taken from his life. And it's a story, it's pretty self-explanatory. He raised a couple of owls, and he has so many other wild animals that he brought home as pets, but this particular story focuses on the owls, and it's cute. It is very Canadian, actually, now that I think of it, because it takes place in Saskatchewan, in the prairies, and there's lots of descriptions of, like, the landscape and the times that he grew up, and, like, the dialogue and everything. It's historically accurate, I would say. I would estimate. I don't know. I might read more by him, but nah. I liked it, just it wasn't a huge, win for me. The next one I did was The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde by Robert Louis Stevenson. And this I really did enjoy. I read it when I was all alone in my apartment, and suffice it to say, I got up halfway through reading it and made sure all the doors were locked because I was just so creeped out by it, really. I found it kind of creepy. But it was really, really good, and it made me excited to read more of Robert Louis Stevenson. I have this beautiful copy of Treasure Island that I've had since I was a little kid, and I have not read it fully yet. So this gives me motivation to do that. And that was it for my Booktube-a-thon stuff. So these last 4 books are just ones that I've read since the Booktube-a-thon ended. They weren't particularly long, so it was okay. It was easy to breeze through them. This one is The One and Only Ivan by Catherine Applegate, and this one was really good. It's a middle grade, and so it's a children's novel, but it's pretty lengthy, and it's got some cute illustrations, but the story was really engaging. I loved it. I loved that the gorilla Ivan is an artist, because I do art, and so I really identify with his character and his drive to make art. And I love Ruby, the little elephant, and their relationship and interactions. It was so cute. And the other characters that were friends of Ivan's, and it was really sweet. And I like that this was based on loosely based on a true story, an actual gorilla that lived at a mall through the 80s and was able to get transferred to a zoo after a lot of public protests. So this is sort of based on it. And I would highly recommend it. I might get a copy one day. But at the very least, I'd love to read it again. So I recommend it to other people. This next one I was really excited to get. I really wanted to get it for a long time, but then I figured because it takes place in the summer, I might only read it once a year. So I still do really want it, but I don't know if I'll pick it up. It's called This One Summer by Jillian Tamaki and Mariko Tamaki wrote it, and her cousin, Jillian Tamaki, did the beautiful illustrations for it. I first saw this on Ariel Bissett's channel, and it looked so good, I had to try it. The artwork, like she says, is beautiful. It is all in purple, and it's a really, I found it in the teen section at Chapters. Well, I had to wait for this one to come in for the library, but I did look it up at Chapters, and it was in the teen section for graphic novels, and I can totally see why. There is swearing, there are more adult kind of themes, but I really love that this was from 2 girls that are just entering into their teens, shown from their perspectives, and I identified with them in that whole area of not knowing everything, just starting to realize that you don't know everything, but yet then you move on to your upper teenage years and you do think you know everything. But it showed some older teenagers in here too, and their problems, and then it showed what they thought of it from their perspective of their problems, and it was really interesting back and forth. She's got other things going on, family stuff, and it was just really, really interesting. I blew through it, but I would have no problem reading it again, and I definitely recommend it. The next one, which I finished yesterday, I read it in 2 days, was my very first A.S. King novel, Ask the Passengers. I've seen it on Booktube, a couple channels I think recommended it, and then I saw it in Chapters. I read the back, I'm like, this looks great, it's not that much, I'll buy it. And like I said, I blew through it in less than 2 days. I just like sat on a bus a lot of the time and just read it. It was so, so good. I love the main character, Astrid Jones. She is a lesbian, but she doesn't want to be labeled a lesbian. She is so fed up with this idea. She doesn't understand why people need to be put in boxes and just slapped with a label, as though that just defines who they are automatically and how they're going to be. That was inspiring to me. I really, really enjoyed that aspect about her. The writing was great and clever. The dynamics between family and like the relationships was fascinating. Anyway, I'm definitely going to read more A.S. King. I can see why Ariel Bissett says it's her most favorite young adult author. She is fantastic. So, and the last one that I have completed is Just One Night by Gail Forman. It is a novella, which is the conclusion to the Just One Day duology. So, which, as you would probably know, Just One Day and Just One Year duology. I had no idea up until I think last week that Gail Forman had put out a novella. I think it's just an online novella, so downloaded a PDF. And anyway, I blew through it on the bus today because it was only like 43 pages, I think. And it was really great. I felt so satisfied after knowing that there was a solid conclusion to these characters that I really, really cared about by the end of the books. So I was glad that I read it. That's all for the ones that I've read so far this month. I'll probably end up reading more, but I wanted to get this done just because I was going away for the weekend. But I also went to the library yesterday, a couple libraries, and I found 5 more books that I'm going to want to read through. They are How I Live Now by Meg Rossoff. I saw the trailer for the movie and it looked fascinating, and I was a little skeptical about reading it, but I've heard before that you're supposed to like give it the first 50 pages, I think, like to give it a chance, and so I'm at 41 and I think I'm going to stick with it. Looks good. The next one is Fixing Delilah by Sarah Auckler. I've seen this on a couple of channels as well, and it sounded great, so I thought I'd pick that up. The next one I didn't even know existed, but I should have known existed, was Page by Page by Laura Lee Gullidge, which is the first graphic novel she wrote before Will&Whit. So my boyfriend found this. He's like, "Don't you want this?" I'm like, oh, yeah. So I'm excited. I'm excited to read it. I'm excited to compare, like, you know, visually between her growth between this and then Will&Whit a few years later. I think it's going to be fun. I don't even know what it's about yet. But this next one is Skim by Mariko and Jillian Tamaki. So the same people that did This One Summer. And this is also written 4 years before they put out This One Summer. This One Summer came out this year. But this came out before it, and I'm excited to read it. I'm not 100% sure what it's about, but I just know that they both did it, so I like to do that. When I find a new author that I like to start looking at their other stuff. The last thing is Jane the Fox and Me by Fanny Britt, with illustrations by Isabel Arsenault. I saw this on a librarian's channel. She put it up as a recommendation, and I'm like, that sounds good. And I found it. It looks really great. It's about this little girl who doesn't have a lot of friends, and she reads Jane Eyre. I love Jane Eyre, so I thought it'd be really great. And I love, look at that. That's beautiful. Watercolor. So I love the illustrations. So I'm really excited. I started it already. I'm nearing the end. But it's very good so far. I might have to get that too. I'm really bad about that. If I find a book and I really like it, I tend to want to get a copy so I can reread it. But anyway, so that's all the books I have for my Booktube-a-thon / July kind of wrap up. In a few days, I am going to be putting up a video of the biggest book haul that I myself might have ever had. Obviously, the first book haul video that I've ever done. I know this video is long enough as it is, so I'm wrapping it up. Thanks for watching. I will see you in a few days, and I guess that's it. Sorry for abrupt goodbye. Bye!